It's the final day in the Championship regular season, and there's still some fixtures that I've got something on the line. Of course, relegation was completely done a few weeks ago with Peterborough, Barnsley, and Derby being relegated. And over in the week, we had Fulham crowned champions after their 7-0 win at home against Luton, and Bournemouth beating Nottingham Forest in the shootout for second place, 1-0 at the Vitality Stadium, and they confirmed promotion. So, all the attention is about the playoffs. Now, Forest and Huddersfield are guaranteed to finish in the playoffs. Huddersfield might finish third, Forest might finish fourth, or vice versa, but we know that both those teams will be in the playoffs. Then, you have Sheffield United in fifth on 72 points, and actually they moved up to fifth without having playing a single game because Luton moved to sixth after their 7-0 loss away to Fulham. So Luton are the team in danger of missing out on their playoff spots. And the thing with Luton is, even if they finish outside the playoffs, Nathan Jones has done a phenomenal job at Luton, given the budget they have and the journey they've been on. I mean, that's way more of a fairy tale than Bournemouth getting promoted, for example. So Luton have had a great season no matter what, but of course they won't want to finish outside the playoffs. Now, Luton play at home to Reading. Reading have absolutely nothing to play for, which will either mean two things. Either Reading will be on the beach and the form that they've shown pretty much the whole season will come to pass and Luton will batter Reading, or Reading will feel like they've got nothing to play for, so there's no pressure on them and they could just go out and express themselves. Some people might think Paul Ince is playing for his job next season. Personally, as a Reading fan myself, I think Paul Ince will get the job either way. So I don't think it matters too much in that sense. Maybe if Luton wins 7-0, questions might be asked. But other than that, I think Paul Ince will be the manager next season. Whether he should or shouldn't is another video and another debate for another day. But nevertheless, for me personally, I think Luton will be fine. Because with Reading, they've got a number of injury issues. They've got players out injured and suspended. I don't think there's any suspensions, but there's certainly injuries. And I just can't see Reading turning up and playing well. Because since Reading have confirmed their survival, they lost 3-0 at home, 3-0 away to Hull, where basically by then it was mathematically done. So they lost 3-0 to Hull, and they were so bad against West Brom. So it's a difficult one because some people might think, oh, Reading are going to play really well then against Luton to respond. But they've got nothing to play for. So, me personally, I think Luton will turn up. I think they'll respond to their 7-0 loss away to Fulham. And I can see Luton winning that game. But there's also Sheffield United versus Fulham. And Sheffield United could themselves be caught. More realistically by Middlesbrough because they've got a good goal difference. But Sheffield United could be caught. And it would have been a lot harder game for Sheffield United if Fulham weren't champions. But because Fulham are confirmed champions now, they might be on the beach because they do absolutely have nothing to play for. So they might just be completely on the beach. And with Sheffield United buoyed by the fact that Fulham have got nothing to play for and home crowd at Bramall Lane, I think Sheffield United will be roaring out the gates and play quite well. The one thing I'll say about Sheffield United though is they've still got a lack of strikers up front. So that might cause some issues. It was fine against QPR away. They actually bossed that game the longer the game went on. But that was QPR, a team that knew their season was completely over. Mark Warburton was leaving at the end of the season. That was all confirmed. They had injury issues, especially in goal. So QPR were a far weaker team in that sense now than Fulham. So Fulham might pose more of a threat, but I think Sheffield United will be fine. But you never know, there could be some slips and turns. I mean, for example, a few years ago, Derby were at home to Reading on the last day of the season and needed a win to confirm the playoffs, and Reading battered them 3-0. So you just never know. Some things might just completely change. Josh Laurent might have the game as life, and Reading might win that. You never know. But if Luton or Sheffield United slip up, then you've got Borough and Millwall that can potentially catch them. Borough are away to Preston, which I think is a really easy fixture for Borough personally, because Preston, they've been in really shaky form. Because while they beat Blackpool at home 1-0, which was a really good result for them, they lost 4-1 at home to Blackburn, which was really bad. So under Ryan Lowe, Preston have definitely made an improvement, but they're still playing at around about a mid-table team, and they themselves, like most teams, have nothing to play for. So I can see Borough winning that game. As for Bournemouth versus Millwall, it's a much easier fixture for Millwall because Bournemouth confirmed their promotion to the Premier League. So similar to Fulham, they might be completely pissed and drunk, or certainly hungover, and they might just collapse. They might just not really care. They might just play the youngsters for the fun of it, or they play their first team and Millwall are just right up for it, and Millwall might win that game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, that being said, I think Borough will beat Preston. With Millwall, they've had a phenomenal season, don't get me wrong, but I can just see that ending a draw. I think Millwall will be winning, and I can just see Bournemouth doing just enough to get a goal or maybe get 2 goals, and I can see Millwall dropping points there. But similar to Luton, if Millwall miss out on the playoffs, they've still had a phenomenal season, and Gary Rowett's done an amazing job. So, full credit to Millwall. Then we have Hull versus Forest. Now, this game could have had a lot riding on it, but of course, Forest lost to Bournemouth, which means they've missed out on automatic promotion. So they'll be going to Hull, making sure that they finish third. What I can see happening for Forest and Huddersfield as well, to be fair, is them resting players. They can afford to rest players, and often in playoff campaigns, if the team have nothing to play for and have already confirmed their playoff spot, they've rested players. So I can potentially see Forest doing that. Maybe the likes of Jed Spence, Ryan Yates, maybe even Steve Cook, considering he got injured at Bournemouth. I can see them all potentially being rested. And then with Huddersfield at home to Bristol City, again, I can potentially see that happening as well. Now that they know for sure they won't be finishing in the top 2, I can maybe see Huddersfield resting 1 or 2 players. It's a crazy prediction. I think Huddersfield Bristol City will have lots of goals because Bristol City are very bad defensively but have really improved going forward, and Huddersfield, I think they'll just see this game as a laugh, almost as like a training game. So I can see this game ending like a 2-2 or 3-3 or maybe 4-3 Bristol City win or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, we have the rest of the games in the Championship. Birmingham Blackburn, of course, Tony Mowbray's final game as Blackburn manager, and for me, personally, I still think it's a really strange decision that Tony Mowbray's gone. I know he's been at the club for 5 years, which is quite a long time, but you look at the progress they've made, it's been a steady incline in terms of results and performances. And with the amount of change Blackburn have had on the pitch and off the pitch, I think Tony Mowbray's done an amazing job. So I'm quite surprised that he's going, and I don't think there are many managers out of work that would do a better job than he has done. Similar to Mark Warburton at QPR, who play away to Swansea. I think he's done a great job. And I mean, I've said this before and other people have said this online. QPR's statement when they announced that Warburton was leaving at the end of the season was so bizarre. They praised him, they said how he improved the DNA of the club, and they progressed QPR and played a lot of young players and academy players, but yet after 3 years he's going. For me, I just do not understand it. They played great football, attractive football. Like I said, they played a lot of academy players and young players. And, you know, QPR, before Mark Warburton, were very much a Eberici Eze team and 10 other players to an extent. But now they're a proper team of mix of experienced senior players bought on largely free transfers and also young academy players. So it's very strange that both QPR and Blackburn are letting go of their managers at the end of the season. But they are. I can see Blackburn winning this game away to Birmingham just because Birmingham, in my opinion, are quite a bad team and there's still quite a toxic atmosphere around the club. So I think Blackburn will win that game comfortably. And then in terms of Swansea QPR, Swansea in the last few results have been bad. Well, I say they've been bad. They've played very well in patches of those games, but then have just collapsed. Against Reading, they completely collapsed. Bournemouth at home, they completely collapsed. And of course, Forest, they were 1-1 at the time and lost 5-1. So there's a theme with Swansea, they just completely collapse. So for them, I think they'll just want to get to the end of the season. Having said that, It could, well, to be fair, both teams like to play out from the back, so there could be lots of goals, but I can see Swansea winning that game and Blackburn winning away to Birmingham. Then the final 4 games in the Championship, Derby at home to Cardiff. Derby's final game in the Championship, of course, because they'll be relegated to League One. They'll be more concerned about off-the-pitch issues and whether Kitchener will be confirmed bidder. I believe the latest news is that Kitchener is only waiting on whether he can own Pride Park Stadium. I think once that's all confirmed and Mel Morris sells that, then Kitchener can officially become the owner of Derby and Derby can get on with things off the pitch. So from their point of view, they'll be hoping that that can just get all sorted out, really. As for Cardiff, like basically the last 5 games of this season, they'll just use this game as an experiment. But because they're not a particularly strong team, I can see Derby winning this game. I can see Derby winning quite comfortably, actually. Then we have West Brom at home to Barnsley. Of course, Barnsley, similar to Derby, officially relegated a couple of weeks ago. They'll just want the season to be over now. As for West Brom, they are going to be sticking with Steve Bruce for next season. So they'll just basically use this game as a pre-season. And in all fairness, I can see West Brom winning this game 1-0. Just not because I think West Brom are a good team by any means, but because Barnsley is so bad and they'll just want the season to be over now. Then we have Peterborough at home to Blackpool, and this game's quite interesting in the sense that these are 2 newly promoted sides, and difference in contrast in what's happened is staggering, given that Blackpool were promoted via the playoffs with Neil Critchley as manager, who's barely been a professional manager, let alone at League One and Championship level, and Blackpool have played so well, and yes, they've been they've been hammered at times, they've not played well, especially in recent weeks, losing to Derby, losing to Forest. But overall, they've had a phenomenal season and they can be proud of what they've done. As for Peterborough, I think out of the 3 teams being relegated to League One, for me, they're in the strongest position at the moment, just because they know Grant McCann will be there next season. I think their squad will be relatively unchanged and there'll only be 1 or 2 players that will leave. Maybe Poku, probably Johnson Clark-Harris, but other than that, I don't think there'll be too many changes. So I think there's more stability at Peterborough than the likes of Barnsley, who are without a manager, and Derby, who don't even really have an owner yet. So I think out of the 3 relegated teams, Peterborough are the most likely to challenge next season in League One. But just crazy how both teams, Peterborough and Blackpool, newly promoted sides, have had completely different seasons in terms of outcome. Finally, we have Stoke Coventry, probably the game most likely in terms of on-the-beach contender. Stoke, well on the beach now. They just want the season to end. And a few weeks ago, I said these were important games from Michael O'Neill's point of view because he needed to win the fans over, that he's the man to take them forward next season. And after their results and performances, I still don't know. I still don't know whether he'll be the manager the next season. And if he isn't, it's another pre-season of change and instability for Stoke, which will be really frustrating from their point of view. Although a lot of the fans want him to leave, which is understandable in all fairness. As for Coventry, similar to Blackpool, similar to Millwall, similar to Luton, they've had a brilliant season given the budget they have, given the style of football they play, which is very attractive. They just create loads of chances, they just can't finish them. So if Coventry can just find a good goal scorer that can finish their chances, or they just keep creating chances and Gokares and Godden step up their game, then Coventry, I think, could easily push for the playoffs. And I say Gokares and Godden to step up their game. In all fairness, both those players have stepped up their games to an extent over the course of a number of seasons. Of course, Gokares has come from Brighton. He was at Swansea. That didn't work out too well. But now at Coventry, he is getting the goals, and I think he will do better next season. And then as for Godden, he's stepped up to the Championship and performed well, but he's been injured in the last few weeks. So hopefully from Coventry's point of view, Godden and Gokares can improve next season, or they can buy a striker who can finish all the chances they create and they can push for a playoff spot. But in that game, I can see Coventry winning that one, just because I think Stoke will be more on the beach than Coventry. So that's the Championship final day preview. Of course, even though relegation and the top 2 are confirmed, playoffs are still not confirmed, and it'll be interesting and entertaining to find out whether Luton and Sheffield United can hold on to their playoff spots. So, thank you for watching this quick preview. I really appreciate it. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you.